Yeah, I think we're live. Oh yeah, we're live. Yep,
Okay,
we're
cool.
going.
So I don't know if you want to start off with just a few people that came back, because I don't want to go over like every single activation, just some of the prominent ones. I think most people know who's returned from the IL. This is more going over injury updates and just general news.
Okay, cool. News and notes section.
So Eloy Jimenez, 87% rostered, which feels kind of low for him, but I don't play in shallow enough leagues where that even matter. It just seems like a weird number. He came back Sunday from an abdomen injury. I'm sorry, appendectomy, and he's starting in right field, which is good for Jake Berger, who we mentioned last week, because now that Yon Makata is playing third,
Mm-hmm.
he would have been potentially squeezed out of playing every day, but it looks like they're going to fit him in. I think he's going to hit around 5 to 6 to 7 in the order, so that's good for Berger. Uh, Tyler Glasnow came back Saturday. Only went 4.1 innings, but he had 8 strikeouts and 1 walk. That's really good. And I would hope that he could start making it 5 soon. I think part of the reason he didn't is because of how many strikeouts he had. When you have that many strikeouts, it's going to eat into your innings.
Oh, okay. What is
This is
he? Pitcher?
really good news. Oh, sorry, what?
He's starting pitcher.
Tyler Glasnow?
Glass
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
right,
Okay.
yeah. Liam Hendricks, he's expected to return Monday, which is really great news. I mean, he's coming back from cancer. I wasn't even sure if he's going to pitch this year, and I would expect him to just close right away. I don't know if they're going to kind of ease him in, but Kendall Graveman was closing with Joe Kelly mixing in. Joe Kelly had a blown save today, so I doubt he'll be anything more than a hold option going forward. But Kendall Graveman is probably the backup. Jose
Who do you-
Alvarado, he threw today after being able to throw Saturday. He had renewed elbow soreness, which is not great, but they said it was minor. Hopefully, he can transition to live BP next, and it's likely he'll have a rehab assignment. There's no timetable for his return. Maybe 1 to 2 weeks, I would say 2 to 3. I don't know. It's really hard to tell.
Hmm.
Manny Machado, there was a chance that he would come back this week, but it's looking more like next Tuesday at the earliest. I even doubt that. I don't know the exact timetable. It was thought to be minor because initially they had him day to day.
Oh, it's a hand. Okay. Shouldn't be too long.
Yeah, I mean, they thought that they could avoid the IL, but I guess it was more significant than they originally expected.
Okay. What do we got here? We got Tristan McKenzie. Indians starting pitcher, 88% owned. Shoulder injury is going to make.
Well, Guardians, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they'll be the Indians to me forever. So
I know.
I don't buy
Well,
that
we
shit.
grew up watching minor league. I mean, not minor league. Fucking
Major league.
major league. So it's so ingrained in our heads. Every time I see Cleveland, I just automatically default back to that.
It looks like Tuesday he's gonna start up in the AAA, doing the rehab there, throwing 85 pitches most likely, and then could debut in the season next week or the week after.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, 85 pitches is um, enough to maybe get you through 5 innings if you're really efficient. Most starters average 90 to 100 nowadays, but it's hard to tell if he'll be back next week at the end of next week, or they'll just wait till the following week. And then Mike Soroka, he's still pretty low owned at 26%. He hasn't pitched since I think 2020. Uh, he's expected to debut Monday
Okay,
versus
so he's coming back.
Oakland, which is a good matchup. Even though Oakland's kind of been a little bit better of an offense than we anticipated, but if he does pitch, I doubt he makes it 5. So maybe you get him for some good ratios. I mean, he's never been a good strikeout pitcher. It's more about the matchup and the fact that he's healthy again. And their starting rotation's been depleted with Max Fried and Kyle Wright out, I think, 2 to 3 months each.
Now you need them to go 5 to get the win, right? I remember that.
Right. Yeah. You have to, if you're
Okay.
starting, you have to make it 5. But if you come in after the starter, I think it's like 3 innings or something. I forget the rules.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you need to. I see what's happening. Carlos Rodon, starting pitcher for the New York Yankees. He's 93% owned. He's he's got a back um, issue there.
Yeah.
It
Back
looks like
injury.
he's gonna be doing some bullpen session. Oh, so that means they're just kind of throwing him into the bullpen to start warming up. He's not
No,
gonna be
no.
going
A
for a
bullpen
while.
session just means um, it's like a simulated inning. He's not going
Oh,
to pitch in
okay.
the bullpen. It just means he's facing um, whatever like hitters they have available for him to throw against, and he's probably not going to pitch till after the All Star break. Matt Moore.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is frustrating because I had written about him on I think Tuesday or Wednesday. He suffered an oblique strain and he went on the IL today. So you know he was good last year, but he was even better this year. I think last year he was on Texas, and this year he's on the Angels. But yeah, I don't know how long he's been out yet. It just happened. Ben Joyce was recalled, who looked really good in college. I think he was a third-round pick who got fast-tracked. I don't know where he's going to be as far as leverage in the bullpen, but he's worth watching in deeper hold leagues. And then Grayson Rodriguez was optioned AAA, which for a lot of people was surprising. I'm pretty sure consensus top pitching prospect in the league. 42% roster that'll start going down in leagues where you can't NA stash. I don't know if it's going to be a long term thing or maybe they'll bring him back later on because the Orioles don't have a good pitching staff to begin with. So it's going to be interesting to see. I would monitor if they trade for pitching at the deadline and he's not back up before then, maybe they keep him down longer than most people expect. But
All right, Trevor Rogers, Miami, starting pitcher, 13% owned. He has got some bicep issues there. He's again, we talked about that. He's going to start rehabbing in the single A next week. Expecting to make some starts there. No timetable on a return with
yeah,
him.
and if he's starting out in single A, that means it's definitely going to be several starts before he reaches triple A. So
Yeah, that's what I
that
was thinking
makes
when I was
his
reading that.
timeline um, much longer than if he had started out just in triple A to begin with.
That's
Willie
so
Adames,
is yeah. It's weird that he
go
goes all
ahead.
the way down to single A. All the way down to single A. That seems pretty far.
Well, I guess they want to make sure that he's not overwhelmed right away with, like somewhat competitive hitting against him. I don't know, but
Oh, I guess so. Yeah.
or it could be like location based. You never know, as far as like
Oh
travel and
yeah.
when the affiliates are.
Maybe it's like his local team where he lives or some bullshit.
Willie Adames had it was like a freak accident where a foul ball hit him in the head while he was in the dugout. He went
Oh
to the
man.
hospital. I don't think. Well, I'm not sure if he was diagnosed with concussion or they're just being precautionary, but he was held there overnight, and I think automatically he has to sit 7 days. So, I wouldn't
Mm.
expect him next week. Ezekiel Duran, this is sad to see because he was really having a breakout year after looking good in a small sample size last season, and Texas is one of the best offenses in the league, so they lose some depth here. But he had an oblique injury, uh, placed on the 10-day IL retroactive to 5/24. Sorry, yeah. I don't think we have a timetable yet if he's going to miss the minimum or longer, but that kind of sucks.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound like it'll be a big injury. Like oblique discomfort. Like that might just be like a few days rest. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's not a strain or a tear,
Yeah.
but
Right.
still, it's one of those injuries where I think it's like a soft tissue type of thing that can be re-injured easily. All those kind of injuries are a little hard to gauge.
Nick Lodolo, starting pitcher for the Reds, Cincinnati, 60% owned, has a calf injury. Looks like he's going to undergo an MRI next week. Expected to return probably late June with that.
Yeah, and with any starting pitcher injury, you want to just plan for the back end of the timetable more than front. There's a chance of re-injury or setbacks. It's just you never know.
But at least it's
So
he's not like he's not a hitter, so he's not running around on that thing.
yeah,
Like
no, but you still have to be expected to field the position,
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
which is good. They got rid of that. We used to have pitchers hitting in the NL.
Yeah, I was like thinking back to that in my head, then I was like, oh wait, no, there's DH now and everywhere.
Yeah, which is like 20 years too late, but at least they did it. Tyro Estrada for the Giants. It's a wrist injury that I think they were trying to initially, just see if he could get away with avoiding an IL stint, but he's on the 10-day IL retroactive to 5/25, and he's going to undergo further testing, which is not a great sign. This means they want more information. They didn't like the original diagnosis, and there's no timetable for him to return. He was putting up, I think, second round value for most of the year, kind of settled into like fifth. So that's a big loss.
Oh
People
shit.
had him.
I mean, here's another loss here that I'm sure fantasy owners have this guy. I'm sure I don't remember the draft like where he went, but where did Degrom go in the draft when this
I think
opened
it
up?
was second, third, fourth. I mean, it depends on your scoring format and stuff, but he went very
Yeah,
high.
that's what I figured. He'd be a top round type person. 90%, 99% owned. Elbow injury. So he is like you're saying, he's doing that bullpen simulated shit, but he's looks like weeks away from returning.
Yeah, his return time's pretty ambiguous. Um, when it comes to DeGrom, you just want to be pessimistic on any date or timetable given. He
Yeah,
usually
and
is
anyone
slow
who's
played because of how valuable he is. And with an elbow injury, you don't want to push anything at all. You want to make sure that he's comfortable returning when he wants to.
yeah, I mean, if they've paid for him, that means they're gonna want to like keep him healthy. Only return when I mean, you got a lot of games. Got a lot of games in the year, so keep him in there when he's actually meant to be in there. can't say that. Jose
Jose
Urquidy.
Urquidy.
Okay. Houston starting pitcher, 37% owned. Shoulder injury. Expected back mid July.
Yeah, I mean, he's only throwing from flat ground right now, so I don't expect him back anytime soon. But that rotation is so depleted. They, you know, they can't afford to have him really prolong for too long. Same with Lance McCullers, who we talked about last week. Royce Lewis, he's been crushing in his rehab, and it's looking like he's going to come back Monday versus Houston. Max Kepler also is going to be back, which is a pretty big deal because the Twins' offense is not that great to begin with. Correa's hurt again, which is not surprising. But Royce Lewis went 1 for 4 today with a walk and a run, and he's hitting 321 with 3 home runs, 2 steals in 7 games. So he's hopefully going to just pick up where he left off in the minors, but you never know. He's only shortstop eligible in Yahoo right now. I would, and everyone expects him to play third base every day. If not, Kyle Farmer will mix in, which is, makes sense because he's been hitting well, but I wouldn't expect him to like block Lewis at third. Maybe Lewis has to play some outfield too. Will Myers, 17% rostered, which is, it's unfortunate time maybe because the Reds had a homestand all this week, which for most of them, were pretty well, other than Fraley, who had a bunch of lefties. But I think we mentioned Matt McClain, who did really well. Spencer Steer did really well. Max Fried, forearm injury. He started a throwing program Thursday. He doesn't have a timetable, maybe around the All-Star break.
Derek Hall. Is it Derek Hall or is it Derek?
I think
What a
it's
terrible
Derek.
spelling there.
No, it's not the spelling. That's it's. I think it's pronounced almost like Derek, but it's not spelled the same way.
Yeah, this is a stupid way to spell it. Not a real spelling, made up there. And that's why he's probably only 4% owned.
No, he's 4% rostered because he got hurt, which a lot of people thought was for the season. Either in the beginning of the year or the preseason, I don't remember when it happened. But the fact that he's going on a rehab assignment, even though it's low A, is good. And with Rhys Hoskins done for the year, if he can make it back in time and show that he's capable, he could hit every day at first. I don't know if they really want to put Bohm there or Bomer, but it's a pretty ambiguous situation. But given the lineup, in deeper leagues, I would stash him if I had the option to. Tyler O'Neill, this guy, still 54% rostered, which, it's hard to drop him because even though there's a chance when he comes back, his playing time could be limited or at least handicapped. He's shown so much power and some speed before. It's just a back injury is really hard to gauge, and it can be hard to manage too. Like we mentioned with Christian Yelich, he started taking leg hitting swings off a tee Wednesday. I haven't really seen an update since then. I don't know if it's going to be a close return. It's probably going to be several weeks.
Oh shit. Julio Urias is did I say that right? I thought that's his name.
Urias.
Yeah, he's got a hamstring injury, 98% owned. So again, everyone's probably looking to have back. He is just throwing from the flat ground, so it's got to be some minimum getting back into the game. It's only starting.
Yeah, he was expected to have a bullpen session Saturday, but I guess some kind of soreness or something delayed it, and they pushed it back. But he is expected to return once eligible, but you never know. Jock Peterson, 26%, so he's still there in somewhat shallow leagues where you really need power, but we all know he's only good versus righties. He'll sit most times versus lefties. He's yet to resume swinging, which is surprising because I think initially his IL turn was supposed to be somewhat to the minimum, and he doesn't have a timetable to return.
It was just a hand. That's kind of weird.
Well, hand injuries are big in baseball because
No, I know, but it does.
it
They don't
impacts
last
so
that
much
long,
of
though. It's not a long like injury, though. You know?
yeah, I mean they can be weird. You know, you can make it worse sometimes if you rush it back. I think, or you don't know the initial uh, significance of the injury, and then you can get misdiagnosed. You know, there's certain places and parts of the body, like back injuries and shoulder stuff, where it might look minimal at first, but then it's found out to be worse based on lack of news or just it develops and gets worse over time.
Dustin May, the Dodgers starting pitcher, 83% owned, expected to miss 6 weeks. So his IL just got moved from 15 to 60.
Yeah, this is more of a roster construction thing that the Dodgers needed to um, have more available arms in their bullpen, and uh, Gavin Stone and Bobby Miller got called up. Caleb Thielbar, 4% rostered, which is more for whole leagues. Oblique injury through a bullpen session Tuesday. It's not real a clear timetable. I've seen reports he could maybe be back late next week, but it's not that clear. Drew Waters, 1% rostered. He made his debut off of an oblique injury Friday. I'm hoping he plays every day. He did really well in AAA. Hit 327 with 2 home runs and 2 stolen bases, but in 12 games. But you never know with Kansas City.
Jazz Chisholm Jr. from Miami, second base eligible, outfield eligible, 96% owned. So he's probably taken in your league. He's got turf toe. Plans to return versus the White Sox in June. So that's not not this week, but next week, June 11th.
Yeah, I thought
Looking like
his um, projected timetable was longer than that, but I guess he's progressing better than expected, which makes sense because he's young. You know, older players take longer than people in like their third year,
oh yeah,
and maybe he comes back then. But turf toe is a weird kind of injury. I feel like somebody who runs all the time like him hopefully doesn't have any impact, but you never know. Brandon Woodruff, uh, I don't know if they're like slow playing his rehab or he's just having setbacks, but he resumed throwing after taking a break from 4 to 5 days, you know, pretty much a week. He's not expected back before June, and I would almost just plan for later than that.
CJ Crone. Oh no, I'm sorry, I skipped one here. Joe Mantiply.
No, Lance McCullers Jr.,
Oh, I
52%
missed that one.
rostered, which is pretty high. I mean, I guess given the way the Astros rotation is, people are expecting him to make an impact as soon as possible, but he's not expected back until the All-Star break. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm surprised he's that high of rostered.
All Star breaks like after 4th of July, right?
Yeah.
All right, so it's a little bit on him for then.
Joe
Joe,
Mantiply,
yeah,
he's
Arizona
only 1%
reserve.
rostered because
Yeah,
he's really a whole leagues play. through a bullpen session Tuesday. He's expected back in a couple of weeks. Just hopefully you have like IL spots to fit him in. Other than that, it's a cut if you can't afford it.
CJ Cron, Colorado, first base, 74% owned. He's out with back spasms. That's again, that can go
Tricky.
weirdly long. Hasn't resumed any activities. I guess just getting treatment. No timetable right now. Probably looking till mid or late June with that.
Yeah, his return is definitely ambiguous. Initially, it didn't seem that serious, but as more and more information came out, the worse his timetable got. Andres Munoz, 78% rostered. He's in with a shoulder injury, and like I mentioned, they can be really complicated. He threw live BP on Monday. They're hoping he can start a minor league assignment or face life hitting soon, but I don't know. He's had so many setbacks in his rehab. Maybe he returns mid June, but it's really not clear on a timetable at all.
Trevor Story, Boston, second base, 36% owned, out with elbow injury. Again, no timetable on that.
Yeah,
Expected again, All Star break.
it's a good update though. He's resumed all baseball activities, which throwing, hitting, fielding, basic shit. So they're definitely slow playing his rehab, which is smart given the injury. And 36%, you know, that's a percentage where in certain 12 teamers, if you have IL spots, he's already out. If he's out there, I would try and stash if I could. Dylan Moore, this is just a speed play with really good eligibility. An oblique injury is not great. Uh, they can be pretty gray as far as timetables. He's expected to return sometime next week, maybe the week after that, but it's pretty vague. Luis Urias, Brewers, he's
Is this
eligible
the brother?
everywhere.
Is he the brother of
Of
that
who?
other Urias?
Oh, I don't know. You might have
Julio.
to look that up.
I feel like
He's
he is, man. That's
still only 18% rostered, which is I don't know. It's hard to say if it's low or high given his track record, but he's beginning a rehab assignment in AAA this week. He has no timetable for return. Tommy Canley, 0% rostered, coming off a bicep injury. He had a minor league appearance on Thursday, pitched well, but he really doesn't have a timetable. With Ian Hamilton out the next 3-4 weeks, he's worth watching if he can return soon. In 2019, he was pretty good. 3 wins, 27 holds, 3.67 ERA, 1.06 whip, with 88 strikeouts to 20 walks in 61 innings. So I don't know if he's washed. I don't know how much the injury is going to impact him based on these numbers. But when he was healthy last, he was pretty good.
Stanton still out. Just starting batting practice. He's not going to do a minor league rehab this weekend, so expected sometime in June. Just back in the lineup, huh?
Yeah, they're trying to slow play him, which makes sense. You don't want to rush him back, uh, and a hamstring injury could be easily reactivated at any time, especially for somebody who's that big and that heavy trying to run the bases.
Oh, exactly.
So that's it for news. Uh, I don't know. I can't tell if it was like less or more than last week. It felt about the same.
Yeah, it kind of felt. It felt. I would say the same. Maybe actually a little more.
I know it's hard to gauge because um, as much as I'm trying to ignore like the minor stuff, certain people and things I can't like leave out, you know. But
Right.
in the process it makes it long. So now we can cover some hitting ads. We did pretty good last week with Brian De La Cruz and Marcelo Ozuna. They had really big weeks. Um,
Nice.
yeah, Marcelo Ozuna I think had 3 home runs, which at the time I thought we were just like riding out the hot streak, maybe being at the end of it, but hopefully myself and other people got an extra week out of it. Next week, I'd be watching his um, underlying skills and see if he's about to fall off or not. But Owen Miller, he he's having a bit of a career renaissance. He was a former top prospect with Cleveland. Didn't do much, but this season it feels like he's kind of found his place. The team is like giving him a chance to play every single day. Not at a fixed position, because once Urias comes back, he might be shifted to the outfield, and I think he's a game or two away on Yahoo gaining outfield eligibility. But I mean, it's hard to argue what he's been doing lately. Over the past month, he's hitting 333 with 12 runs, 4 home runs, 8 RBI, and 3 steals. So you can see he's not gonna get a lot of runs driven in, but if you need somebody eligible all over the place who has a really balanced approach, he seems like a good option. And especially with Milwaukee at home, if you're in a shallow league and you're just streaming, you get even more out of it. Josh Naylor, uh, unfortunately, it seems like he's dealing with a minor injury. He was held today with soot soreness, but the X-rays were negative. He really had been crushing. This is a former first-round pick, 12th overall, so he has some prospect pedigree. And last year he really broke out. Cleveland's offense has been terrible this year. I'm expecting and hoping their lineup will turn around, because it's not like they're devoid of talent. They have Jose Ramirez, they have Stephen Kwan, Ahmed Rosario, Josh Bell's decent, Andres Jimenez. This is not a bad team. Just everyone seems to be slumping at the same time. Francisco Alvarez, this is, I mean, one of the more exciting players, regardless of position. I would almost, in somewhat deeper leagues, util him if I had a catcher already that I felt comfortable about. But I mean, at the same time, I would chop him. I wouldn't want to be rostering 2 catchers like that. But he's a hitting first catcher who's starting to develop more all around, which is good for his playing time going forward. And given Buck Showalter's uh, affinity for not playing other players, you just hope that he'll play every day. But the last 2 games, he's got 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. He has been crushing for the last month, hitting 323 with 10 runs, 6 home runs, and 14 RBIs. I don't know how he doesn't play every day, and I'm surprised he's been hitting ninth for this long. He got moved up to second today, but that's only because McNeil was sitting. I'm hoping he'll hit somewhat in the mid to late of the order, but you never know. He has no stolen base upside, but his average slugging percentage, OBP, everything, like all his hitting metrics look great. I don't know how they don't play him every day going forward. I would be surprised. Jake McCarthy is a bit of a weird one. He was amazing, and I think somewhat half of a season last year. You know, it wasn't a full year, but he showed the ability to possibly hit 10 home runs, steal 20, 30 bases. And he really struggled. You know, myself and a lot of people were taking him into the mid to late drafts this year, but he was quickly demoted. Alec Thomas, or I think was more for defense, was starting most of the time ahead of him after the demotion. Then Dominic Fletcher came up and hit really well for a week or so. He's been demoted. So now it's back to McCarthy. I think Pavin Smith will get mixed in a little bit with Lourdes Gurriel and Corbin Carroll playing every day in the outfield. But I'm hoping McCarthy will play almost every day. Mickey Moniak.
Some good highlights. He's got some good highlights, McCarthy there.
McCarthy? Yeah, I mean, he's very athletic and his skills have always looked really good. It's just he can go through stretches where he makes zero contact, and you can't be a stolen base option who can't get on base, because then you're completely devoid of value. You know what I mean? Like, you can't steal bases if you can't get on first. So Mickey Moniak. This is another weird one. I mean, that's the thing with baseball, is like these guys get regurgitated and like recontextualizes on all different teams and situations. But he was the first overall pick by the Phillies in 2016. Really didn't ever amount to much. But this year and in AAA, he's absolutely crushing. They still seem to mix in Taylor Ward at times at first. I'm sorry, at leadoff. But for the most part, it's Moniak. Other than a lefty, he will not play against lefties, much like Jake Fraley, who we talked about last week. But he has a lot of power. Not a lot of power. He has solid power and some speed. And he's hitting ahead of Ohtani, Trout. So if you can just get on, there's a good chance you're going to get driven in. Jose Siri, this is my guy. I have him on every team. I liked him back in Houston. It's just they never really gave him a shot. He's got a ton of speed, above average power. His K rate's going to be an issue, and his average is probably never going to be very high. But Tampa Bay has got a great lineup. He probably will not play every single day, but he is a good defender, so it helps his chances more than most. So if he's in a platoon, you would hope that he's in the higher end of it. I was hoping for maybe like a 10 home run, 15 home run, 20, 30 season. And I think he's somewhat close to that kind of pace, and 13% rostered. If you're in a 12-teamer and you need steals, I would have him rostered. But it's hard to gauge his playing time from day to day. Heimer Candelario. So he was a pretty high-regarded prospect. I remember coming up, Miguel Cabrera was kind of like his mentor in Detroit. He never really amounted or came close to those levels, but he's always had somewhat middling power, decent contact skills, and now he's not the, but close to the focal point of the Nationals offense, with Lane Thomas leading off, who we talked about last week, Luis Garcia, and Joey Meneses. These are good OBP guys. You know, if he can hit for any kind of power and drive people in, his RBIs could be somewhat decent given how mediocre the offense is. Leody Taveras has always been one of the best limited, Statcast, um, stolen base, upside, potential options, but he just hit for such a low average. And now he's hitting 316, which feels way above his head. But if you can hit like 240, 250, and maintain in that ninth slot in a absolutely loaded Texas lineup, 9-10% rostered feels pretty low if you're trying to get stolen bases without absolutely nuking your counting stats and average. So a couple of people before we get to the closer ads, we talked about Dylan Flora, Miguel Castro, and Pierce Johnson last week. Castro had a save or two, Pierce Johnson had 3, but like we warned about, he got absolutely destroyed at home. I think he gave up 4 runs in an inning. But at the same time, he had 3 saves over the past week. So, like I said with the Pierce Johnson ad, you really got to decide whether you want the ratio risk or you want to get saves. It doesn't get more white and black than that. I mean, he probably cost you ERA and WHIP unless you have a lot to balance it out. But 3 saves in a week is way above average. So that's just a weird dichotomy to go through. So Adam Ottavino has not been.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about honorable mentions, or am I wrong on this?
No, that's yeah.
Because I got.
Yeah, so Luis Garcia, he's hitting second behind Lance Thomas, and should be good source of average and runs. Nolan Jones recently was called up by Colorado. Hopefully he plays every day in the outfield, but you never know with them. They just are so poor with their prospects and development. Edward Julian, I think, has 2 home runs and 4 RBI in the last 3 games since his call-up. It's complicated because Jorge Polanco is going to eventually come back to playing second base all the time. They have Royce Lewis playing third base all the time, so I don't know how they fit Julian in. But from spring training to the time period before Polanco got called back up, he's always hit. It's a little hard to tell what his role will be, though. Rougned Odor, I mean, this guy, he used to be a beast on the Rangers, going like 30-10 with horrible average. But he's definitely displayed upside before in the past. And I think because of the Machado injury, they've been hitting him pretty high in the lineup, which seems weird, but I guess someone cared about him drawing walks. Tupaquita Marcano on Pittsburgh is eligible all over the place and has a solid mix of speed and power. The Pirates have been way above what most people expected offensively.
That's pretty cool, man. All right, and he's like, he's there. He's got to be in the leagues. If he's only 1% owned, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to gauge. I'm going off of Yahoo percentages, but in like an NFBC, he's probably been rostered for weeks now. It just depends on your format and depth of the league. You know, I specialize just in Yahoo. I can't cover everything, nor do I want to.
Now we're getting into our pitchers here, relief pitchers under 50%.
Well, I think we talked about Ottavino a little bit. Um,
Briefly, briefly.
yeah, so Robertson's working high leverage, which means sometimes Ottavino will get same chances from that. And then when Robertson rests, Ottavino will get save opportunities. Hector Neris, he's been solid for several seasons. He was a pretty good closer at times for the Phillies, but always had a pretty high walk percentage. Rafael Montero has just been terrible this year after looking really good and setting up Ryan Presley last season. So it's safe to assume that Neris is taking over the eighth inning role. And on a really good Astros team, he should be getting a lot of holds, which, in whole leagues he's been gone by now. But in standard leagues, if you want the occasional rogue save, he might get it. And he has really good ratios. Bruce Gratterall, Evan Phillips is getting used almost a ridiculously as the high leverage guy. He came in and worked the fifth inning against Atlanta on Tuesday, which, I mean, just seems ridiculous to have your closer who's elite. Right? He is elite. He has great ratios, Evan Phillips, to not be saved for the later innings. But yeah, they pitched him the fifth inning, and he got a win. Gratterall see that game, and they do occasionally mix in Caleb Ferguson, which we covered last week as a lefty matchup who could get some saves. But if Phillips is not getting the save initially, it seems like Gratterall's next in line. Despite his really high velocity, his K rate's never been that high. I think most people always were anticipating, hoping it would translate to more, but it just never did. And Daniel Hudson has a very ambiguous timetable. I don't know when he's going to return, but when he does, he will eat into his workload because Daniel Hudson's a very good reliever. So that's it for like people who I think could get well, not completely, but people who I think have a decent to better chance of lucking into saves. Now we're more into relief pitching that are mainly hold options, but could mix into holds just based on rest and unavailability. This is my guy right here, Eric Swanson. He earned a hold today, striking out 1.1 innings. He was elite last year with Seattle. He kind of had a rough patch the last week or so, but he's back to producing. I think he's one of the safer non-closer options for just straight ratios and keeper nine. And when Romano rests, he will be earning saves. Matt Moore, I don't want to really talk about. We don't have video for that. I wrote about him on Tuesday. He was looking amazing. He went on the IL today with an oblique strain. Brooks Raley. So he's kind of a weird case because he was pretty mediocre his entire career before Tampa Bay traded for him, and they have a very strong track record of developing relievers. He tends to mix in a little bit for saves when Robertson's going early and Ottavino's going early, and you have a lefty um, matchup to play. His ratios look good, and his K/9 is somewhat stable, but it's hard to trust his walk rate. I I think of him more as uh, in 12s like a desperate save play and hoping his ratios are good, but he's already rostered in whole leagues. Hunter Harvey, this motherfucker, man, this motherfucker. It.
Got a good scumbaggy look though. Mustache, long hair.
Hunter Harvey is like realistically
Jay Powers.
two. No, he's like 2 or 3 appearances from not failing to being the closer this year. Like he squandered such good opportunities to claim this role over Kyle Finnegan, who is such a mediocre. I don't know how he gets stuff done. Shitty pitcher. I mean, Hunter Harvey has just so much more upside and prospect pedigree. I can't give up on him. I think either Finnegan blows up or gets traded, but I'm not giving up on Hunter Harvey becoming the closer the rest of the season. And if it's not him, it might be Carl Edwards Jr. But that's it for relievers. I feel like could have a somewhat regular shot at saves. Now we're going to Staples holds. Chris Martin, he's a journeyman, but he's always had a really, really low walk percentage. Not a great K/9, but he seems to get by. His career's been pretty underrated. I mean, he's had horrible blow up seasons and somewhat elite stretches. Has a very weird track record of somewhat success, but now that John Schreiber's out multiple months, he is the eighth inning option. And if Kenley Jansen can't figure out the pitch clock stuff or gets hurt, he's got a pretty sketchy track record of injuries, and he's pretty old now. Chris Martin is next in line, only 60% rostered. So even in 12s, I would be monitoring as a ratio play with the upside for more, given the context. Danny Kulumbe, I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I should have looked
That
it up.
sounds right. That sounds right.
He's a weird journeyman reclamation project by the Orioles, who we've already stated have had successful like Jorge Lopez last year nobody thought was good, and then they traded him peak value. Felix Bautista was a weird prospect that they developed. Yennier Cano had done nothing. He pitched a little bit with the Twins, but is like a 29-year-old journeyman. Not journeyman, but the Orioles have something going on with their pitching staff to where their relief pitching seems to develop and have success. So I'm comfortable hoping that'll not completely maintain, but sustain to a certain level. Scott McGough, Arizona, pitched in Japan last year, looked really good, dominant, but it's hard to translate that to major league pitching. He looked really good in the spring. 2.16 ERA, 0.184 whip, about a K per nine. I'm sorry, K per inning with a very low walk rate. But he got blown up early on in the year, leading to Andrew Chafin taking over as the closer, and then eventually Miguel Castro, who we talked about last week, mixing in. But all that alleviated some pressure. Scott McGough kind of was able to relax and get his shit together. And over the last 16 innings, 20 strikeouts, 8 walks, 2.81 ERA, 0.94 whip with 5 holds. So he's definitely rebounded from a horrible start to the season. Joel Payamps, I'm still not clear on how to pronounce that.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
I have to look it up. Yeah, I probably should have before this.
I mean, I don't know how you keep all of it in track.
I think Fangraphs or some shit will show like the way to pronounce names and stuff, but
like phonetically.
Yeah, phonetic. Yeah.
Oh, they'll actually show that. That's funny.
He's been a kind of a scrub journeyman douche his whole career, but I mean, he's been nasty this season with the Brewers. I credit their pitching staff, I guess, for helping him figure stuff out, or maybe he went outside of the organization and got help. But he looks pretty elite, and he's still not like working the seventh every inning as far as high leverage, but he's in that 6th to 8th mix where he's had 3 holds his last appearance. No, I think 4 holds his last appearances. And for the first time in his career, he's striking out over K per 9. So hopefully it lasts. You never know with these type of plays, but with relief pitchers, you only need to hit for 1 year. You know, it's not like Dynasty where you're invested for 3-4 years at a time. Like,
yeah,
if this guy can just be good for like half to a full season, that's all you need. And then Giovanni Moran had a rough, well, it was barely even a rookie season, but he had very interesting production last season. I was hoping that they would give him a full-time role, but he kind of got regulated to, barely making the roster. But after the last 11 innings, 13K, 4 walks, which is big for him because his walk percentage has been really high, and 6 holds, which is just ridiculous, with a 1.59 ERA and 0.79 whip. So his season-long numbers look horrible, but I'm willing to buy into his development and hope that despite Caleb Theobar coming back, he'll have somewhat of a high leverage role going forward.
Oh, nice.
And that's it for his ads.
Okay, cool. You wanted to share your screen, right? Next part of this. You got to add that in.
So far as just general ends, let's go over what's available. A lot of them are based off just as for the day. Look at hitters. You can see why Zach McKinstry. I mean, it's hard to argue with Zach McKinstry. I'm gonna look at him next week. Hopefully, it maintains, but you never know. I mean, this is kind of like quad A type stuff.
How did your week go for this team?
I gotta see. A lot of times, I don't even want to look at it until it's like close to ending.
Oh, well, that's a good
8-2.
That's a good end to the week.
Yeah, I mean,
Got a few people in too, left, right, or no?
runs are. Oh no, okay, runs are good. But yeah, it was pretty close on um K's early in
Yeah.
the week, and then eventually I stopped trying to stream and just hope my relief pitching cover it. And um
So you kind of do you always sacrifice wins and ERA or no?
no, I
ERA just a bad
sacrificed
ERA
wins
week.
and strikeouts, but my
Bad
relief
ERA week, yeah.
pitching, my relief pitching K rates were so high that I didn't really even need to stream much to have an advantage.
Do a bit of home
Usually,
runs
part of the
this week.
strategy is to have relievers who have high K per nine. You know, like
Good
you
stolen
can see
bases.
Felix Bautista had 3 Ks in an inning, even though I didn't use
Yeah.
them. But
Yeah,
so
good bit of home runs, good steals, looks like for you for this week.
let's look at the watch list. The 29th is shallow, but it's really not that shallow at all compared to
Tomorrow? Oh, yeah, I'm surprised.
the
I'm surprised
first.
there's not more games.
So 6-1 for hitting is going to be very weak. Jose Abreu hit his first home run today in like a year and a half, which is kind of sad. I mean, he should be better than that. Josh Naylor, who we talked about, is good for this first. So the 29th to 4th is the bracket of. Actually, let me just go to. Let me clean that up. So you can get a general idea of starting pitching. Okay, so Singer gets Colorado on the road. No. Walker,
Yeah, I don't want that.
Mets. I don't know. Not really. Tellerson, I get Chicago. That would have been better without Eloy being back. Ranger Suarez against the Mets. I don't know about that. Carrasco, no. Adam Wainwright against Cincinnati.
How old is he now? He's got to be
That's
old up
decent.
there, right?
Oh man, he's got to be like.
He's playing a long time now. I'm gonna find out. What is he? Yeah, he's 41. Jesus.
Yeah, but he was really good.
Yeah, born in 81.
He was really good in 2021.
Oh, cool. I mean, I wonder if so I guess there's no plan to stop.
17 wins, 7 losses, with a 3.05 ERA and 1.06 WHIP. I mean, that's really good. Given
Has he stayed a Cardinal this whole time too?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Oh, okay. This is his
Yeah,
final
you don't see
season.
that very often.
He has announced it. This is his final season.
Oh, yeah. Pujols just retired last year.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see too many.
So
42 would be crazy.
Cal Quantrill versus Baltimore's not looking great. France versus Minnesota's not terrible. Rich Hill versus the Giants is actually decent because they're terrible lefties. Paxton versus Cincinnati, I don't know. Logan Allen at Baltimore, I might want to try just given his prospect pedigree, and maybe they don't have a good scouting report. Matthew Boyd against Texas, no. Bealock against Minnesota is not terrible. Kenning against White Sox, I don't know. Schuster at Oakland, that's a decent stream right there. Garrett San Diego, no. Bello with Cincinnati on the road looks decent. He's been really good, and he's a top prospect. I don't mind that. Freeland, Arizona, no. That's not looking good. But yeah, 6-1 far as hitting ads is a crucial day to get stuff in. But I think we covered everything.
Cool. Yeah, man. I went through a lot of stuff here. Yeah, a lot of good ads. Looks like a lot of good hitter ads. More, I would say. Right. Felt more
Well,
hitting people. We talked
you
about
never know. Like with hitting ads, it's a lot of just
a
good
little more risky.
schedule or pitching you're against. It's hard to really project.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard to get
But yeah, I think we should
projection.
call it there.
Awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, like and subscribe, and be sure to
And
check us
we'll be
out
back
next Sunday.
next Sunday. Yeah, we'll be back next Sunday, 8:30.
Yeah. See you guys.